Welcome everybody to What's Up Fandom. My name is Josh, and today I am joined by some very special guests. We have Scott Peterson, who's writer, executive producer, and showrunner. This is also audio, Scott.
Oh, I should say something then, yes. Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Joining us once again, Mathew Berkowitz, executive producer.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be back on.
Oh, no problem at all. And also joining us once again, Nick Wolfhard, who plays a monster, I think. Right? Aren't you a monster in the show?
Yeah, you can find me in at the beginning of book one, maybe in the background. I play maybe one miscellaneous monster. He says, "Hey, Jack," and that's it. But he's cool.
Yeah,
I think he's grabbing a fan base.
One day, like he's got a whole half a scene in season 5 coming up. So,
oh yeah,
there you go. Spoilers. I don't know. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. No,
you forgot about book 4, which has not happened yet.
There's a lot of things
an entire season.
But we're gonna be talking about book 3 of The Last Kids on Earth. Guys, thank you so much for coming on and joining me on this wonderful Friday afternoon.
Absolutely.
No problem. Yeah.
It's hot in here. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm hot. How are you guys doing? Like, I know Nick's in wonderful Canada.
It's very rainy where I am. It just stopped, luckily, as we started recording.
See, this guy flexing all the time. He's flexing rain to people in California that it never rains here.
Yep.
He's flexing his age. Look at this guy.
My dad wants to move to LA so bad, and I do too. But my dad is I just want to get out of the rain. And to be fair, it rains so much in Vancouver until March, and then we have 3 months where there's just no rain, which is in the summer.
In LA, we have it rains in January for a couple of days, and then we have 11 and a half months of no rain.
Yeah. And nobody had.
You guys get heavy though.
Depends on what heavy is. If you ask an LA person if it's heavy rain, it's oh my gosh, it was a typhoon. But
we get heavy fires.
Yes,
yeah,
that is the one thing we do have, heavy fires.
I guess. Well, if we're flexing weather, it's actually supposed to snow on Friday. Is today Friday?
Today is Friday.
Wait, what's today?
Friday.
Oh, maybe it's supposed to snow tonight. It was pretty cold.
Jeez. Well, again, thank you
sorry.
everybody for
You're gonna get.
We're coming on. We're actually gonna talk about The Last Kids on Earth, I swear. So basically the way that we're gonna do some minor spoilers for book 3, because if you haven't watched it, why? It's available on Netflix now. Just go watch it. It was number 7 in the US, then number 10, but number 1 in our hearts. Texas forever. So one of those wonderful things. It's really good. And book 3, we kind of start off at the end of book 2. We have Thrall and Rezok are seemingly defeated. And then so everyone's having a good time. And that's basically how you guys ran this season, correct? It was just a good time for everybody, correct?
There's no conflict whatsoever.
Didn't think so.
All the kids just pretty much hang out for about 10 episodes. But unfortunately, they want to get power. They figure it'll be even more fun if they can get a big generator and power up the whole city. And that leads them to find a new monster that's not really thrilled with these kids, called the Nightmare King, or the King Wretch, who really kind of hunts down the kids and tries to get inside their heads, which is a new thing for the 3rd book. That he's not just slashing at them with his body, but he's messing with their minds.
And another thing that the power triggers too is just them realizing that there's other humans alive. That's a big narrative, part of the narrative for our kids on the show and what they're going through here and what that means for them.
They hear voices on a radio and realize we're not the last kids on Earth after all.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is the darkest season we've done yet. This is by far the darkest one yet. Oh man. Some of those dream sequences, I couldn't, at first I was so psyched to record those because I could not believe we were wow, we're really doing this. Okay. I don't want to get into spoilers yet, but yeah.
Well, when the season is based off of the book of the Nightmare King, that should be kind of indicative of you're gonna have a dark season, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
usually it's not, the Nightmare King. He's not technically the lord of, the land of puppies and bunnies. It's Nightmare for a reason. I did write just in wonderful, a probably weird Coke-filled state of caffeine craziness. I wrote this season, Dirk wants to be a monster. Quint needs a union rep. June falls in love with the radio, and Jack can't catch a break. So that's like, to me, that was kind of like the antithesis of this season, like of our 4 characters.
If we'd had you in the writer's room, we could have saved a lot of time.
Right?
We'd known
It
all
would have
that
been
up
done.
Everyone
I'll
has
take
like
it.
an
Just call me for
individual
book 4. Just call me.
Okay.
I'm available. But yeah, like, so a big part of the season, especially for Nick's character Jack, you get in, like, his character gets infected by Rezok pretty early on, and he hides that. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about Jack's arc throughout this season?
So basically, they find this radio and they're trying their best to like repair it completely. They have to add this little module onto it so it's not just a one-way radio, so they can actually communicate to the other side. And Jack is, at this point, Jack's mental state is just so just messed up because last season he got betrayed by Thrall. Spoilers, by the way, but that was kind of like his father figure, the only one he's really ever had. He doesn't have a foster family. He just got infected by Rezok through the King Wretch, which formed because Rezok kind of like transformed it. And so not only is he dealing with the possibility that his friends might leave him for good, but he also is infected by Rezok, so he's possibly being like this kind of like spy. Rezok can almost like kind of see what's going on, and yeah, it's not a good time. It's not a good time for Jack. It starts out really well, and then it just goes all downhill from there. But on the bright side, all the other characters are, kind of get kind of lighthearted adventures. Quint and oh my God, it's been so long that I can't remember what's Mark Hamill's character's name? It's
Bartle.
not
Bartle.
Bartle. God, that's so. Can we cut that part out? I'm so embarrassed.
Hold on.
Bartle, I was
Real
just
quick.
watching it last.
I'll help you out, Nick, because before I do any of these kind of interviews, I open up Last Kids on Earth cast in Google, and I put it at the top of my screen because I know I'm going to forget somebody's name. And I'm going to go, Catherine O'Hara. So I have a cheat sheet up above my screen right now.
I mean,
okay.
I just have an IMDb on my phone. Just
There
ready
you go.
to go.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so anyway, Quint and Bartle have this kind of chemistry going on where, Bartle is very magic-oriented and Quint is, very much science. And, Bartle kind of respects Quint's, like, creative drive, but he's not so sure about it yet. And then Dirk wants to become a monster, and he's really trying to prove to Chef that he can be just as strong and just as, deadly as one of them. And then June is just obsessed with this radio because she really wants to see her parents again. After
Wimp. She's a wimp.
Hey, I mean, Quint does too, just to a lesser extent. And also, Skelka gets a lot of screen time this season. She's kind of become my favorite character. Because she kind of interacts with everyone, which is great.
Yeah, I liked her and Jack's little, they have a nice little kind of like team up together for a little bit. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
So turning a book, like when we've asked this question before, but I mean, some people, they may be listening for the first time. What are some of the challenges of taking a book and turning it into an animated series?
You want to take that one, Matt?
Sure. I'd say right off the bat, like especially, we all get into this because we loved the books and, we think that it's such a phenomenal series and so much great stuff to play on. And especially with these that are already such a strong narrative behind them and like the 3-act structure, to be able to say, hey, we want to come in and honor it. But then also because the books are already so like beloved and in so many different languages. Like, kids already have access to this. So if we're going to come in and say we want to play in this space, what new elements are we bringing to the table that both can stay true and have the original core fans feel honored and enjoy it, but then also allow us to take it to another level and bring in a whole new set of folks. So I think really, in particular, these books, you get into them, it's about an hour and a half sitting per book. It's a fantastic run, and then you're out. But then really thinking about what can we do on a narrative level and take it to 10 episodes, and then also get you just out of Jack's point of view. Like, yes, he is the star of the show, but in going to 10 episodes, you really need to think about what are all the other characters thinking. And I think Scott and the team did a phenomenal job really of both embracing the material and working with Max on that, but then really pushing it so much further.
Scott, any challenges this season of creating anything? Like, was there stuff that you wanted to add, or stuff that ended up getting like left on the cutting room floor?
Not really cutting room floor. We definitely raised the bar from second season in terms of, okay, instead of 10 monsters, now we've got 30. And instead of a tree blowing up, we're going to have a giant roller coaster chase with a giant flying monster. And it really gets kind of crazy, but we were able to pull it off. I don't think there was anything we really ended up on the cutting room floor other than, some jokes that we had to cut for time, that sort of thing.
Oh, well, now we got it. We got to hear these jokes. Do you remember any of these jokes that were cut for time? Because I will say, in this season, there are a lot of jokes and a lot of really good Easter eggs that I adored. Like
you have a list.
Like the fireman, the sexy fireman calendar joke, that was amazing. The little interaction between Mark Hamill and Bruce Campbell. I thought that was, I was like, I'm watching them like, no way, they didn't really say that. I had to rewind it and listen again. I was like, nice. I don't know how many, kids watching are going to get that joke. For me, I was like, that's for us, the olders.
I love how done Bartle is like throughout this season. Cause they want like the couch and he's like, the whole, I wasn't napping thing is great. And then he's,
then
Quinn,
he wanted his couch again. That was very sad.
Yeah.
His
And
couch back.
to Quinn, he's like, I'd like you to leave now. It's great. And
just kind of a curmudgeon.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite parts from this season? Like
I'll call one out. Absolutely. Like the penultimate episode, and like taking that and putting that whole thing inside of Jack's head. And that's something that Scott, you and the team worked really closely with Max on this as well, just in terms of like, hey, this didn't exist in the books, but it still really honors the storyline and got to take the really have its own unique voice as an episode and take things, I think, to another level by getting us outside of our normal setting and in such like an, the tension's so high at that point, and then it's so action packed that like we're facing all of these huge emotions while like everything is hitting the fan at once.
In the book, I think it was a page where we go into Jack's head and then come back out for the big final battle. And one of our writers, Josh Pruitt, loved the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and the Dream Warriors, and where they were going in and fighting Freddy Krueger in the dream. And he's like, we could do that with this. And so we were able to expand that into almost a whole episode in Jack's head. And that gives you the ability to then twist space and time and do things that you can't do in a normal episode. And it really freed us up to do a lot of things that were fun, but also a lot of things that showed what Jack's feeling and what the characters are going through in a way that's not just in their head, because we're in their head. So you actually get to see what they're feeling.
And it also probably leads to like so much creative writing, right? I mean, if it's all in someone's head, you could basically almost do whatever you want with in terms of just fighting scenes and all that stuff. Which, if you haven't seen that episode, I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I think one of my favorite scenes is there's a couple, but one of my favorite scenes for sure is where King Rezok is trying to, King Wretch, I guess technically King Rezok, trying to tempt the kids with their fears and their wants. Like, like I said, like Dirk wants to become a monster. Quint wants to become like this top scientist. June really wants to see her parents again. They all pass. Jack is the one that does not, and that's why he gets infected. And it's these great scenes because they're all so varied, especially like in environment. So that was cool. It's almost like making a deal with the devil.
Yeah. And kind of going back to what Nick said earlier, this season is a little bit dark, like a lot darker than the previous 2 books seasons. I'm gonna mess that up all the time. I apologize.
Sorry, I do too. I shouldn't.
I mean, it makes sense for it to be a book because I mean, it's a book, but
Yeah.
but it's so much easier to say season. You know what I mean? It makes it easier. But like yeah, like there's a scene where in Jack's mind, because that is the thing that does happen a lot through this series, is Rezak is communicating with Jack through Jack's mind. And there's that one scene of him pulling the blanket and it's got like all of his friends on it. I was like, wow, we're getting a little bit higher than rated T for teen here, guys. We're getting a little bit up in that level a bit.
Where the treehouse is on fire and I'm just gonna say it, Rover's dead body. Like pretty much flaming corpse. And you don't see it really. You see like an outline, right? You see like a shadow, but it's there. And that's the part where I was like, while recording it, I was like, oh, okay, but I'm gonna have some fun with this.
There were a few things we pulled back on a little, like you said there, instead of showing someone's dead, we show a silhouette.
Yeah.
Or when Jack is dragging the bodies of his friends, we made that scene a little bit shorter and cropped in a little bit so you don't see it quite as much. You don't see the detail as much. There were other things where we didn't want to hear a bone crunching sound. So we just pulled back a little bit. So we didn't really have to get rid of anything, but we softened the blow 10% maybe, just so it wasn't quite, we didn't want it to be traumatizing for kids. We wanted them to be scared, but to still have fun.
No, it's all right. Traumatize them early. That's what happened to us. We traumatized early. I do have some questions from some people on Instagram. This one is from MHMD_Arif_Z. I'm guessing that's Muhammad Arif Z. How is it working on the current season under the conditions of 2020? Like was it a little bit difficult? Like for you guys, I know, recording wise, it's one thing. You're no longer really at a studio. You gotta record in like a closet. But I don't know, like animation wise, or like was there any difficulties for you guys during the season?
Well,
season book?
my answer is really short, so is okay if I go first?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we recorded the actual books before the COVID pandemic actually happened, but I did sometimes go in to re-record some lines during it happening. So I didn't actually end up recording anything from home, but there were definitely precautions taken for sure.
Yeah, we had to have, just one person in the booth and one person at the controls and no director there. Everything was remote. I think with the animation, we still had quite a bit to do when COVID hit and weren't sure how we were going to be able to do that. But Atomic Cartoons was amazing. Within 2 weeks, they got every single animator home. We had over 200 people working on this. And within 2 weeks, they were all set up at home to keep working. And I think maybe we lost a week of productivity and then had to catch up on that. But it was astounding that we were able to just keep chugging along.
Yeah, Matt, what type of how difficult is that? I mean, you're the CCO of Atomic, so you're in charge of basically not just Last Kids, but all of the other creative properties that you guys are doing. Like I know you guys announced the holiday special, so you got some Star Wars going on too at the same time. So what is it like as a studio, like from a studio aspect, moving everybody over during COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at the end of the day, a fantastic IT and pipeline team, when all this went down. So I think a neat thing is every animation studio, you're doing almost everything in-house with artists in-house, but you also are tapping into different artists around the world for hey, there's an amazing designer to pull off a particular look. How do we integrate them into our pipeline, even if they can't come into the building? So you're always working with a few freelancers beyond your main team that's at the studio. So we'd had at any given time as I think once when COVID hit, we were around 750 folks. And so at the time there were maybe 15 people working remotely. And the IT and pipeline teams basically were able to take that workflow and very quickly transition that to a workflow for the entire studio. And I mean, it was really tremendous because it was a matter of right out of the gate, like, we need to get everybody out of the building and safe at home. So cool, let's get that squared away. But then also you want to maintain the security, all the security protocols. So what we were able to set up is all of the artists were able to remote access into the studio so that they would be not working on the files locally on their home computers, but instead tapping into their computers that were at the studio. So none of the material actually would leave the building. And instead, you know, you then didn't have to worry about, like, we're behind a bunch of firewalls and like we have so many like just security protocols so that we don't get hacked. And they did a really amazing job of scaling that, you know, from 0 to 60 in about 2 weeks. And that was the biggest thing. And then troubleshooting it, because different people have different internet speeds, and like, are you getting a lag? Are there things that are functioning less optimally? And then the IT team literally went in and would meet with every single artist and troubleshoot their problems with them. So it was pretty wild. And then beyond that, just a ton of credit to all the producers on the various shows, because it's one thing to get up and running and then be like, cool, now you are technically able to work and we have given the tools that you need to be able to do that. But then like, hi, how's morale? You've been at home for 3 months. And like, usually you're at a studio, you get all the camaraderie and the fun and the back and forth. So it really was then transitioning that to like, hey, let's do a Zoom happy hour. Let's do whatever we possibly can. Let's send out puzzles or t-shirts or whatever it may be, to just have you still feel like a part of the team, rather than just, hey, I'm sitting in front of my computer for 40 hours a week.
Yeah, like boosting morale, right? Like that kind of thing. It's also funny because you mentioned keeping all the materials like at Atomic. We the show for the voiceover, it records like a block or two away from Atomic, which is great because like if any of the producers or writers actually, you know, near the studio need anything, they're like, oh, I forgot something, like run back to the studio, grab that, run back, and it's like, here you go, which is very convenient. So yeah.
Kind of speaking of morale, like so Scott, like how do you kind of keep that morale up with your team of creators and everything, trying to do this while you guys are not in the same room all at home?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy. My morale's somewhere down about an inch above the ground right now. No, I think you try and keep people focused on what's positive about it, that we're still doing the work that we love. The show's doing amazingly. People are loving it. The final result, everybody was really proud of. So I think it's keeping focused on that rather than, I got to do this for 8 more hours. And just encouraging people and letting them know how valued they are, so that what they're doing is being appreciated. They may feel like they're working in a vacuum, but there are people out there who love what they're doing.
Nice.
I have to give credit to Scott on this. Well before COVID or any of that, like, it's a really ambitious show, and was really trying a lot of new things at Atomic. And Scott, based in LA, went up all the time to Vancouver to meet with the team, go through things. And it wasn't always just like, hey, here's a work trip and we need to take out, we need to cover all of these things that we need to knock out. It was also building that camaraderie, having people feel like they're really a part of the show, having a great time with them. I think that Scott led the team, not just creatively in delivering this, but also really making sure that folks felt empowered in their roles, and set up to do their best, and always being accessible, whether he was in LA or in Vancouver, you know, always available and open to chatting with folks and hearing out their ideas.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Checks in the mail, Matt.
Woo!
I have another question here from WTF_wary. Who's your favorite character in Last Kids?
I might need a little time to think about it. Why don't you guys go first?
I've been asked this question before, and usually I say Chef, because I really just wanted to work with Bruce Campbell since I first saw him in Evil Dead. So we created that role. He wasn't in the books. We created that role basically so we could get Bruce Campbell in. But yeah, the more we talk about Skelka, she was not in the first couple books or had a really tiny role, but we wanted to make her, we thought she had a lot of potential. So we boosted her character up as much as we could, as early as we could, and are really happy that we did that. I think she really stands out and is a strong female character who's not afraid to kick butt.
Mm-hmm. My answer is probably either Skelka or Dirk. Maybe Dirk a little more, but I don't know, because Skelka is just so great in book 3. Like, she gets so much stuff to just like play around and just like say some like jokes to the team. The smell my axe thing was hilarious, where Dirk is like, "You may want to wash that," which is great. Skelka or Dirk.
What about you, Matt? Do you
I
watch
think
the
I'm going to go with
series?
Nick's character. I think I'm going to go with Jack on this one. And
Oh.
fundamentally, it's and Nick, like, honestly, you brought the character to life in such tremendous fashion. Like, what we're taking him through and what he is experiencing, I think feels very real. And like, even with, so far where he's gone in the series, and like book 1, you feel for him. He's a foster kid. He's getting his family together and his friends. And like, that's a great part. And then taking his character to the next level of like, what's it like to be part of a family was so much of book 2, and seeing what that brings out in Jack. And then book 3, and you can only do this because of the time that you've spent and getting to enjoy him and appreciate his perspective. In book 3, it's all about him losing a family and how he responds to that. And he's selfish at points through it. He's not perfect. He's far from it, to the point that he almost, ruins it for everybody else. And going through that trajectory, I've just always felt, right on from reading the books, like he felt like a really real kid to me. And I felt that there are so many things that he had going on that you could really relate to. And then, just really grateful for how he came to life in the show and to be able to match that.
Oh, thank you so much, Matt.
See,
You can tell Matt's a great executive because he's already complimented the two of us in the last 2 questions.
Yeah, you are fantastic. You answer my texts too, just in regular conversation sometimes. I don't know another executive that does that, but that's awesome.
I'll just wait for mine. Anyway, Matt, you did kind of bring something that I did want to mention. So yeah, you guys do take some liberties with the books. Like, characters are created, characters are expanded. Is like, what can we look forward to with our characters? Like, are there some things that I know you guys have been working with Max a lot in order to go for other seasons in these current seasons? Is there going to be like a little bit of differences between the books and the series, like kind of evolving the way our characters are going to develop further on through the additional books, seasons?
Yeah. Well, we're not official for book 4 and beyond, but we can certainly talk about, like, something that we had a lot of fun with was the interactive special that is on the way. And we actually just finished production on that, like, what, Scott, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we did the final mix about a week ago.
Yeah. And that was a really neat activity for us, because I definitely say for future episodes, absolutely, we're looking to stay in line and have that general narrative. And if anything, it's been interesting because Max has been writing the books as we've been doing the series. And so, like, Globlet is a character that came from the series and, has been a lot of fun in that, and has now become a key character in the books as they moved forward. All that's to say, I think that there will always be a connection because there's a broader arc that is figured out, that like of the story of where this is going, but then different opportunities to get into things. So our interactive special, we can't, I guess, talk about like the specific plot of it, but that isn't tied into any book. It's purely tied into like the character development that has happened to date. And then we got to tell our own narrative amongst it. And it certainly stays on canon, but is its own story.
Yeah, it could. I mean, like you were saying, like you guys like making that so much. I didn't know you just finished it a week ago, but yeah, if we get more, I don't want to count chickens before they hatch, but It could like be like our Treehouse of Horror, or like our Interdimensional Cave, where we occasionally do like an interactive episode. It's just free reign with the story. Do whatever. That's interesting.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. You do get to do things in an interactive because you have multiple endings. It depends which path the viewer chooses. So you can get darker or even still.
Yeah.
And-
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
And I was gonna say the other thing that I guess like we can chat about at this point is, very soon, obviously the video game has been announced, but we're going to be releasing like the first trailer for it and everything tied into that. And that was another opportunity where we felt like for the game, we should have its own storyline. It should totally feel like a standard Last Kid story, but like we got to make up a villain for that that was not necessarily tied into canon, and then have its own like big story throughout that. So like, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, more and more, I think the Netflix series tying into the books and how we're expanding upon that, but then with all the different tentacles of the brand at this point, we're beginning to get further out into the world.
Yeah. Going back on the interactive, I don't know how much you guys have talked about. I know, Matt and I, we talked off air about what it was like. For some of the people that may not know what you guys are talking about, can you explain a little bit about what you're doing with the interactive thing with Netflix?
So it gives the viewer the opportunity to choose, does Jack attack the monster or does he run away? And they'll, click on their console or on their remote, and that will change the course of the story based on their choice. So we created 66 minutes, a little more. I think maybe it was 70 minutes when we ended up of original content that kind of plays out like maybe a normal 22-minute episode when you make the choices and you end up in a certain ending, and then you can go back and do a different choice and play it again. And so they've had a few of these on Netflix that have done really well for them. So we were thrilled that they wanted us to do one for Last Kids, and it was really interesting as a writing exercise too, because you have to write like a puzzle kind of. It's a logic puzzle of, well, if they go this way, then they've got to end up back here eventually, or we're going to end up, if you branch forever, you'll never end. So it's finding loops and finding things that split back on themselves. So it's a fun writing exercise and should be really fun to play too.
Yeah, it's kind of like you choose your own adventure, or like the Telltale games, like The Wolf Among Us or The Walking Dead. My like you said, there's been multiple ones so far. My brother Finn actually just did one for Carmen Sandiego. So so that came out actually maybe beginning of this year or a year ago. But yeah, now it's now we get to do it, which is awesome. So
I do have a question. I know in some of the old, like from me, my wonderful days of reading, I used to get those Young Indiana Jones books, those Choose Your Own Adventure Young Indiana Jones, because those were pretty top. Is there a route in your Last Kids one where it's like two choices and then the episode ends, so it's only like 4 minutes long? Because that would be hilarious. I loved in those books, like there was one of those Indiana Jones who's like, oh, I take this one, that's the end of the book. And it's like, I've done like 20 pages. Like, what the heck? It's over. Like, is there a path like that? Because if there is, that would be hilarious.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Do you go through the door or not go through the door? Don't go through the door. You spend the rest of the day just chilling with your friends. End of the episode, like credits, executive producer Nick Wolf. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think, Scott and the team had a lot of fun putting in. I mean, look, there's so many ways that things can go wrong in this world. And like similar to like you reading those Young Indiana Jones books, like usually what happens if at the beginning you are suddenly at the end, like things went horrifically wrong. Yeah. There's never the like, oh, we skipped forward and everything just worked out. Yeah. So I think there are many, many points in there.
I think I maybe recorded at least like 5 of those, I want to say. But there's a lot, so Josh, you'll be happy about that.
That's perfect.
Yeah, Scott, what would you say about this?
I would say there's definitely the opportunity to fail. If that's what you're looking for,
that's
you're
perfect.
Gonna do it.
That's what I want. Like remember when they did like that Jeff Corwin experience thing, and it's like, oh, is he gonna get eaten by a leopard? It's like, he's never gonna get eaten by a leopard. It's Jeff Corwin. I want to get. I want to get Jack eaten by a zombie. Like that's my main goal in life. I want him to get ate by something. So
something like that, I think probably happens. Maybe not exactly, but
that's all that we need in reality. Okay, do have one final question. This is from at Saturn's Mini Moons. I'm not sure which moon asked, but we've many of them.
Yeah.
Does Jack like Panic at the Disco?
Am I answering this? I'm just the puppet master, I guess, for the character. You guys go ahead, I guess. Matt, I guess.
Actually, I'm gonna kind of like spin on this. What's on Jack's playlist?
Oh.
Like, what's he listening to right now? Assuming his iPod Nano, I guess he would have an iPod Nano. I'm sorry, he would probably have a Zune.
Yeah, Zune, yeah. The Offspring. I think the Offspring would be on there. I think that would definitely fit his personality a little bit to me, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think Panic at the Disco is probably something that would fall more on June's playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, I think, is trying too hard to be cool, so he'd like only want the thrasher tunes.
Mm-hmm.
And really, look, I'm a headbanger, I'm really tough, and so anything with melody probably wouldn't be as great for Jack.
Well, Matt, I gotta know what is on Jack's playlist in your mind?
I think I've got to agree. Like, Offspring makes a lot of sense here. I could totally see that. What else is in there?
I was kind of hoping you'd be like Mozart's Concerto in D minor. Like that would have been hilarious. Just like, he likes to chill.
I feel like we might see that at a Quint. We could see that at a Quint. And now I feel like the real spin, though, would be like, what's on Dirk's playlist? Because you're not getting heavy metal on Dirk's playlist.
Mm-mm.
It's just
I feel like that's
Spice Girls.
Music. Yeah.
Yeah,
Spice Girls.
He's not a Brendan Urie fan.
Yeah, I think Dirk would have Spice Girls, but that's just me. Yeah, at least one or two songs.
I don't know, some like OG like Miley Cyrus, like Party in the USA. That would be pretty dope.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like, embrace it, and like, hey, it's who he is, and it's awesome.
Exactly.
He makes no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. So anything that you guys have coming up that you want to share with us?
Who wants to go first? I guess I'm already talking. So
Go for it.
okay. I have a new series called well, it's not mine, but it's a bunch of people. It's called New Gen. I'm doing it with my brother Finn and The Witcher's Anya Chalotra, and we just recently announced that Lena Headey and Luke Wilson have joined the show.
Oh,
Luke
cool.
Wilson's going to be playing a character named Robo Duck, and Lena Headey is going to be playing a character named Thea, and that's all I can say. But it is about two brothers in this nanotech world that they need to protect from someone else who's using this well, I'm not going to say anything other than that.
And it's Bardell, correct?
That's right. The
Yeah.
same people that make the Dragon Prince, I believe. Mhm.
Nice. What about you guys? Got anything coming up? I know Matt, Atomic's got like the Lego Star Wars coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, November 17th, Disney Plus. It was a blast for the studio to be able to animate it.
I was so surprised when I saw that because I thought George Lucas wanted that dead and buried. The Lego, but to do it in Lego is genius.
Yeah.
There's so much you can do with that.
We were really excited when Lucasfilm released like the poster key art of just like the minifig hand. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we were pretty excited. And then unfortunately, a lot of the other stuff is under wraps right now, so we can't get into it.
Scott, got anything coming up that you can talk about?
I'm getting prepared for the riots after the election. I'm going to get myself a big TV and take out some neighbors that have really been bothering me. But beyond that, I don't really have plans.
Nice. That's wonderful. So guys, thank you all so much for coming on and chatting. We didn't spoil like that. My main goal was not to spoil a lot of season 3 just because it is so new. I don't even think we're not even in our 2-week cycle yet.
Weekend. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that thanks so much for coming on. Where can everybody find you guys social media wise?
I am twitter.com Nick_the Wolfhard. You could probably just find me at Nick Wolfhard. And Instagram is Instagram.com/the Wolfhard. That's where you can find me.
Scott?
I'm at flagrantproductions.net.
flagrantproductions.net. And Matt doesn't have any social media. He's got Atomic, and that's basically what he's cool with.
There we go. You got it.
That's all you need. That's really all you need.
I mean, yeah, just be like, this is me,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And we'll put all those links and everything to Atomic, to Last Kids Book 3, to Scott's website, to all of Finn's stuff. All that is going to be in the show notes. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Kane. You can find the podcast on Instagram at What's Up Fandom, on Twitter at What's Up Fandom PC for podcasts. Thanks to 1 out of 10 for the intro and outro music for this episode. You can check them out on Instagram at 1 out of 10 and on Spotify. Just look up 1 out of 10, also in the show notes, and give them a listen. Listen to the full version of our song that they have for us. Again, guys, thank you all so much for coming on.
No problem. It was awesome.
All right.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Oh, no problem. So for What's Up Fandom, I'm Josh.
I'm Nick Wolfhard.
I'm Scott.
Matt.
Matt did still never praised me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Poetic or using big words, but the